Hello, thank you for visiting this training video hosted by DXC Technology. Today, I'm going to show you how to enroll a new facility in the Provider Management module for Vermont Medicaid. Before we begin, please note that this video is intended for informational purposes only and does not guarantee approval of your enrollment in Vermont Medicaid. If you have further questions regarding Vermont Medicaid's enrollment criteria, please contact the Enrollment Department at 802-879-4450, option 4, or you can email us at vtproviderenrollment@dxc.com. For today's presentation, I'm going to start on the homepage of the Provider Management module. You can access the link to the Provider Management module by visiting www.vtmedicaid.com and click on the Enrollment tab. To start a new enrollment, I'm first going to click on the menu button that's located in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Under that, I'm going to hover over Provider Enrollment, and I'm going to select New Enrollment. The first page you're going to see is our welcome page. This page is designed to give you some more information on the documentation or information you're going to need in order to complete your application. Right below the welcome information is an Enrollment Pre Checklist. This is not required, but if you wanted to make sure that you had all the necessary information specific to your enrollment type or provider type that you're going to need, you could fill out the Enrollment Pre Checklist, hit Generate Pre Checklist, and it's going to give you more information about what you're going to need to complete your application. Once you're ready to begin, you can hit the Start button. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to register this application. Every application that you complete must first be registered in order to receive an ATN or an application tracking number that's going to be unique to this specific application. In order to register the application, you must submit an email address along with creating a password. This will allow you to resume your information if you needed to stop or start an application. You can also enter in a provider reference, and this is just an internal reference for you if you're doing multiple applications. That way you can easily see as you're going through the application, reminding you of which application you're working on. So once you've entered in all the necessary information, you can hit the Register button. This has now launched us into a brand new application. You're first going to see a blue information box that is going to give you that ATN or that application tracking number. And it's also going to let you know that that application tracking number has been sent to the email that you registered with. The application tracking number will follow you throughout the application itself, so you don't necessarily need to write this down. It will be with you throughout the application, and it's also available to you in your email. A few things I want to point out before we begin our application. You'll see here that the tracking number is available to you at the top of each page, and that provider reference is located right below that tracking number. If at any time you need help on a specific page of your application, there is page level help, which is indicated here on the top right-hand corner with a blue question mark. So if you're not sure and you want more information regarding the specific page that you're working on, you can click on that and get some more information. If you need field level help, meaning you're not sure how to fill out a specific field on a page, field level help is available to you by hovering over the gray question mark directly above the field itself. Anything that is marked with a blue asterisk must be completed in order to move on and save and continue to the next page. At any time, once you've completed a page, you can print out that page, and that print button is located on the top right corner of your screen. You do have the option to print it at the very end too if you needed to save a copy of that application that you were submitting to us. So to begin, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select our enrollment type. I'm going to do so by selecting from the drop-down list, and as stated earlier in this presentation, this is for a facility today. Now, once I click on my enrollment type, you'll notice a couple things have happened. First, I'm going to get this blue information box letting me know that once I save and continue this first page, I'm not going to be able to go back and change my enrollment type. The reason for this is you'll notice that once I selected my enrollment type, a whole bunch of panels have opened up, created in the application itself. The enrollment type and the provider type you choose drives the application. So it really is catered to those two pieces of information, and you're only going to see information we need related to a facility application. This is why you cannot go back and change it once you've saved it, because the application's already been tailored to those two pieces of information. If you save and continue the first page and later on in the application you realize that you have filled out the wrong enrollment type or provider type, you would need to start a new application. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK to proceed. Next, I'm going to select my provider type again by dropping the box down. And today we'll go ahead and just be a general hospital. And again, you are going to get that blue information box again, letting you know, just like the enrollment type, that once you save and continue the first page, you're not going to be able to change your provider type. You also must enter an effective date, and you can enter in an effective date requesting up to a year in the past or up to 90 days in the future. Under provider information, you have to provide us with the legal name of your facility. If you have a tax name or a DBA, you can enter that information here. You also must provide a valid 10-digit NPI. The module does recognize and expect to see 10 digits here and does recognize a valid NPI. You also must provide your tax ID for the facility. So I'm going to enter that information here. And then below that will be a series of 4 questions. The first question is, are you currently enrolled as a provider? If you choose yes here, a red warning box is going to populate asking if you're actually here for revalidation. If you are trying to revalidate, if you've received notification that it's time for you to revalidate, you're already an enrolled provider, this is not the avenue to do so. If you were to check yes here, it's going to bring you back to the home page in order for you to complete the revalidation process. We're not here to revalidate today, so I'm going to hit no, and I'm going to change my answer back to no. We're going to ask if you're previously enrolled as a provider. If you choose yes, a box is going to open up to the right, and we're going to ask you to provide your previous provider identifier with Vermont Medicaid. We're going to ask you if you're enrolled with Medicare. If you choose yes, you'll notice that nothing populates to the right here. However, because we chose yes later on in the application, we're going to be asked to provide that Medicare information. And then lastly, we're going to ask you if you're registered with CAQH. If you choose yes here, a box is going to open up to the right, and we're going to ask that you provide your CAQH provider ID. Under the questions will be a place for you to enter in contact information. And this is the contact information for this specific application. Who do you want to receive notification and more information regarding this application? So you must enter a name and an address. And you're going to notice that once I tab through the zip code, it's going to start processing through something. This is because every address that you enter into the provider management module goes through the USPS software to validate that address. You'll notice here that it has retrieved a result asking for a requested change, and it's added the last 4 digits of that zip code on. I'm going to accept those changes by simply clicking here in the line item. However, if you did not want to accept the suggested change, you could simply X that out of the box and it would keep your current data in there. You also must provide a phone number for this contact information. If you have an extension or a fax number, you can enter it here. And as you'll notice while I'm going through and entering my email address, this is not a required field. It's not marked with a blue asterisk. However, right under where you enter your email address is a question regarding your preferred communication. If you drop the box down, you have 2 options, either email or mail. If you choose email here, you will be required to enter in an email address before you continue on. We do highly recommend that you do choose email, as you're going to receive notifications regarding this application much faster via email than you will mail. And sometimes those notifications may be Vermont Medicaid requesting more information in order to complete your application, and it will have an associated deadline. So receiving that notification via email is going to give you more time to get that document to us. So I'm at the end of the first page and I can save and continue. However, I just want to go back to the top of the page and reiterate that the enrollment type and the provider type here, once I hit save and continue, I cannot change. So you want to verify that those 2 pieces of information are correct. I have verified it. It is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and continue to move on with my application. The next page of our application is regarding specialties. Before I fill out the specialty, I just want to note here now you can see your progress bar at the top. Anything that you're currently working on, any page that you're currently working on, is marked in yellow. Any page that you've completed is marked in white, and you'll notice that you have the ability to go back and review that information or edit that information. Anything that you have not yet completed is marked in blue, and you'll see that you can't click on moving forward to a new page unless you've completed the page that you're currently on. These have to be completed in order. You can't jump around here. So I have to fill out at least one specialty, mark it as my primary in order to continue. You'll see my provider type is listed here. So in order to create a new specialty, I'm first going to hit the Create New button located in the box below. Once I do that, a new window is going to populate. I'm first going to make this my primary. Again, you have to have at least one primary specialty noted. Under that, I'm going to choose from the drop-down box under Specialty. And you'll notice that there is a specific list of specialties for you to choose from. And that's because you're only going to see specialties allowed or associated with the provider type that you chose. You're not going to be able to choose from any specialty that's out there. Again, the module and the application is designed specific to the provider type that you chose. So you're only going to be able to see specialties associated to that provider type. If you're dropping the box down here and you don't see your specialty, you may want to review the provider type that you chose. So today we're going to be a general acute hospital. And then I have to select a taxonomy. And again, I'm going to choose from the drop-down. And just like the specialty, I'm only going to see taxonomies that are associated to the specialty I chose. So again, I'm going to go ahead and choose general acute care. I have to include an effective date of my specialty. So I'm going to enter in that date here. I do want to note, though, that you want to make sure that at least one of your specialties goes back and encompasses the enrollment date that you are requesting. So if you're requesting enrollment back date to 7 months ago, you want to make sure that at least one of your specialties, it goes back at least that far. If you don't, you may end up with claims or billing issues later on. Once you've entered in all the information here, you can hit Save. Now, if you had multiple specialties that you wanted to report, you would simply repeat the process. The only difference here is you would not click the primary box because you can only have one listed as your primary. So you can repeat this process as many times as you have specialties associated to your provider type. Once you've entered in all the necessary specialties, you can click Save to continue. The next page of our application is where you're going to enter your service location information. So to begin, we're first going to create a new service location. Again, everything works the same in the module page to page, so I'm going to do so by hitting the Create New button. And just like our specialty, we're going to ask you to identify your primary service location. You're going to do so first by clicking the Make Primary button. And then you need to enter in a billing name for your facility. And you want to make sure that the billing name that you enter here is how you're going to be billing your claims to Vermont Medicaid. What name are you going to be using on your actual claim forms? Under that, you're going to give us contact information specifically for this service location. So this contact information may be different than the contact information you gave in the first page because that contact information was for this application. This contact information that we're asking you for is regarding your specific service location. So again, we're going to enter in the name and the address of the person that you want us to contact for this location. And once you tab through that zip code, it is going to go through the USPS software. I'm going to accept the changes by clicking in the line item here. And then I need to enter in an email address for this service location. Again, this may be different than the email address that you provided earlier. You must include at least one phone number related to this service location. So I'm going to do so by hitting Create New. I'm going to select the phone type and the phone number. If you have an extension, you can enter that here, but it's not required. And then you can hit Save. And now I have a phone entry. If you have more than one phone number you want to report, maybe a fax number or a cell number, you could create new again and just repeat the process. Under that, we're going to ask you some information regarding the service location specifically. First, we're going to ask you of your hours of operation at this service location. So you're going to enter that information by first checking the box. And you'll notice a new box is populated, and now I can hit Create New and enter in the hours of operation. You do have quite a bit of options when it comes to entering in your hours. You can get very specific. You can choose every day, a specific day of the week if you have different hours for Monday or different hours for Wednesday. You could choose weekdays or weekends. We're a general acute hospital today, so I'm going to choose that we're open every day and that we're open 24 hours. You'll notice that if you do choose 24 hours, the 2-hour box is grayed out because there is no option that you would want to choose if you're 24 hours, so you don't need to fill anything out there. Once you've entered in your hours, you can hit Save. And again, if you did have different hours, maybe for weekdays versus weekends, you would simply repeat the process, choose your next option of days, and then put the hours in for those days. Under that, we're going to ask you if the service location is ADA compliant, is the service location accessible by public transportation, and what are your after-hours arrangements? We're open 24 hours, so I'm actually going to put open 24 hours here. But if you're not open 24 hours, you would want to put in what you instruct members to do if you are indeed closed. Once you've entered in all the necessary information regarding this service location, you can hit Save. And now you'll notice that we have our first entry for our first service location, which is our primary location. If you had multiple locations related to this one facility, so you wanted to identify multiple service locations, again, you would simply repeat the process. Just in your next address, you wouldn't choose it as primary. You would want to make sure that box is not checked as we already have a primary. So it works just like the specialties. You can enter in as many service locations as you want to report. Once you've entered in all your service location information, you can hit Save to continue. The next page of our application is regarding addresses. This is where you're going to give us some more information on specific addresses that we need in order to know what notifications and payments and where to send them to. So the first required address on this page is your Pay To address. Where do you want us to send payments to? You have two different options here. You can copy the information from your service location, your primary service location. So if the Pay To address is the same as your primary service location, you can simply check the box here and it's going to copy that information so that you don't have to enter it again. However, if it is not the same, you want to leave that box unchecked and you want to enter in all the information here. What's the billing name for this Pay To address and who is the contact for this Pay To address? Today I'm going to say that it's the same, so I'm going to check the box. You also have the option when it comes to your email and your phone number to copy from the service location, your primary location 1, if it is the same, or if it is not the same, you would want to enter in that information. Again, I'm going to say it's the same, so I'm going to copy that information, and you'll see that it just populates it for me. The next required address is the Mail To address. Where do you want us to mail information to? Again, you have a couple different options here. If the information is the same as your primary service location, you could drop the box down here and select service location. If we had entered a Pay To address that was different than our service location, but our Mail To is the same as our Pay To, we could choose Pay To and it would copy that address as well. But if it's neither one of those, you could simply fill out the information here, and I'm going to do that today. So I'm going to say this is our DXC mail facility address. And I'm going to enter in the contact information for this Mail To address. And again, we're saying this is different, so I'm going to enter a different address. But you have to make sure that you're filling out the name and the address completely. Tap through the zip code, and it's going to go through the USPS software to validate. Below that, you also have the option again to copy the contact information, email and phone number if it is the same as your service location or pay to. So I'm going to go ahead and copy my service location as that information is the same. And you'll notice that the preferred communication defaults to mail. Again, we highly recommend that you choose email here. Notifications are going to come much quicker to you via email than they would mail, but you do have the option to either choose mail or email. Those are the two required addresses on this page. However, we did leave in spots here for you to enter in addresses for prior authorization, remit to, legal, or medical records request if you have a different address that you want those items to go to. So for instance, if you have a designated prior authorization department and that is located somewhere other than the facility service location, you could enter in a specific address to send prior authorization notifications to. You would do so by clicking the plus sign located on the line item, and that is going to expand and allow you to enter in that information. You'll notice nothing is blue asterisk as it's not required. However, if you do begin entering in this information, you're going to need to complete all of the information. Otherwise, it's not going to let you save and continue. You can't just complete half of it. You would have to complete everything. Once you're done entering all the necessary addresses, you can click Save to continue. The next page of the application is regarding organization, and this is where you're going to give us organization details. So the first thing that you're going to fill out is the organization type, and you're going to do so by dropping the box down and choosing from the list. And you're going to do the same with tax classification, so just drop the box down, choose from the list, whichever one is applicable to you. You have the option here to check the box for registered with Secretary of State, incorporated, chain affiliated, operated by management company, domestic or foreign owned. So if any of those apply, you want to be sure to check the box associated. If you choose either registered with Secretary of State or incorporated, you have to include the dates associated to the right of those. So I'm going to make sure that I fill those out. Once you've entered in all the necessary information regarding your organizational details, you can click Save to continue. The next page of our application is regarding individual associations you have to your facility. This is not a required page for you to fill out. However, if you have individuals who are already actively enrolled with Vermont Medicaid that you want to associate to your facility, you can do that here. So to do so, you would choose Create New. And then you do have the option to either associate via the provider ID, which is the 14-digit service location ID of the individual, or by MPI. So I'm going to search by MPI today. You just simply enter the MPI of that individual who's already enrolled. Again, I have to reiterate that they must already be actively enrolled. And then you can hit search. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring down the information that we have regarding this enrolled individual. You would next choose an effective date of their association. And you also have to enter in an end date. So you may not know the end date to their association. You may not have a date that they're not going to be affiliated to your facility any longer. If that's the case, you have the option to enter in the end of time here, which for us is 12/31/9999. So that just means that you don't have really an end date in sight. They started on 3/1/2020, and that's where you expect them to be for the near future. Then at any time on our provider portal, once you are enrolled, you do have the ability to maintain your information, so you could end that association at any time. Once you've entered in that information, you can hit Save. And now you'll notice that I have an individual who's associated to my facility. And you can repeat this process as many times as you have associated providers. Once you've entered in all of your individual associations, or if you don't have any, you can simply hit click Save and Continue to continue on with the application. The next page of our application is the Credentials tab. The first thing you're going to need to fill out on this panel is your license. So again, you're going to do so by hitting the Create New button located on the right-hand side. You're going to enter in your license number first, the issuing state, the issuing board, and the effective and end dates of your license. Then you can click Save, and now you'll notice I have an entry for my license. If you have multiple licenses for multiple different states to report, you can do so by simply hitting Create New again and repeating the process. Now, if you remember from our first page, I did select that we were Medicare enrolled, so now you'll see where we're going to enter in that Medicare participation information. So I'm going to start by hitting Create New. I do want to be considered for Medicare crossover claims. I want my claims to directly cross over to Vermont Medicaid after being processed from Medicare, so I'm going to check that box. I'm going to enter in my Medicare number. The Medicare type I'm going to select from the drop-down. You'll notice that there are many times where you're going to have multiple Medicare participations. So you want to make sure you make an entry for each one. So we're going to start with Medicare Part A, an effective date of that participation, and an end date. But I'm also Medicare Part B enrolled, so I want to repeat the process in order to note that. So I'm going to hit Create New again. Again, I want to be considered for Medicare crossover claims for my Part B as well. I'm going to enter in my Medicare number. This time, under Medicare type, I'm going to choose Part B, and I'm going to enter in the effective and end dates again. And then I'm going to click Save. So you want to enter in as many that you are actually participating with for Medicare. Under the Medicare information will be a question asking if you're enrolled in any other state Medicaid programs. If you choose yes, a box is going to open up, and you will be required to give us that information regarding which state and the effective and end dates of that enrollment. If it's no, there is no box to fill out, and you can simply move on. If you have an active DEA to report, you're going to do so by hitting the Create New button, enter in the DEA number, and the effective and end dates of that DEA. Now, I wanted to note here, and I wanted to show you what happens if you enter in information that the module doesn't expect. So in this case, the module knows that a valid DEA is 2 letters followed by 7 digits. I only entered in 4 digits, so it recognizes that that's not a valid DEA number, and it will not let me continue. This is great in cutting down errors in your submission so that when you submit your application to us, it's complete the first time, and it cuts down errors and us having to reach out to you. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in the rest of my DEA number, and now I'm going to hit Save, and it will allow me to continue on. Once you've entered in all the necessary information on the Credentials tab, you can hit Save to continue. The next tab of our application is regarding your provider type, and this is where you're going to give us information regarding any CLIA that is held and bed information. So if you hold an active CLIA, you're going to want to report that to us by hitting Create New. This is going to open up a new window, and you're going to enter in your CLIA number, followed by selecting down from the drop-down for your CLIA type. We're going to say that this is a regular CLIA today. And what is the effective and end dates of that CLIA? And then you can click Save. If you hold multiple CLIAs with multiple different CLIA types, you just want to repeat the process and enter that in. Under that, you will be required to give us your bed information. So you're going to start by hitting Create New. You're first going to select the bed type. So today we're going to say that this is general beds, the number of beds, and an effective and end date. And I'm going to put our effective date as our enrollment date here. And then I'm going to click Save. And now if you had more beds to report, so say you wanted to also report your emergency room beds, you would just simply hit Create New again, enter in the bed type, the effective date, and the end date. Once you've reported any CLIA or bed information, you can hit Save to continue. The next page of our application is labeled as Other. This has just a little bit more information regarding your facility and your service locations. The first is any languages that are spoken at your facility. So I'm going to hit Create New to add an entry, and you're simply going to choose from the drop box down, entering in any languages that are spoken at your facility. I chose English as our first language, but we are Vermont, we're close to Canada, so I'm also going to say that we speak French. Under languages will be an area for you to enter in any certifications. This is not a required field. However, if you do want to report certifications, you're going to hit Create New. You're going to list the specialty associated to the certification, the certificate type, and the effective and end dates and certification number for that certification held. If you have a website for your facility that you would like to report, you can do so by entering it here. You just want to make sure that it starts with either HTTP or HTTPS in order for it to be a valid URL. Under that, we must complete the malpractice information. So I'm going to hit Create New. I'm going to select the type of carrier by choosing from the drop-down, the name of the carrier, my policy number, and the aggregate and the per occurrence amount. Now you'll notice when I entered in those amounts, I didn't enter in any special characters. The module does not allow for any dollar signs or commas or periods, so you just want to make sure that you're entering in digits only. Also, the module does know that the aggregate should be greater than the per occurrence, so if you accidentally switch those two amounts, it wouldn't let you continue on. And then you want to enter in the effective and end date of that policy. Under your malpractice information will be a question asking if you currently or have within the last 10 years been involved in a malpractice suit or claim. If you choose yes to this question, a new box is going to open up and you will be required to give us more information regarding that suit or claim. You will need to give us the patient name associated, the policy number, and the status in your case or your claim. If the answer is no, you are done with this panel and you can simply hit Save to continue. The next page of our application is regarding EFT or electronic funds transfer. You'll notice that when you first land on this page, it just has one question asking if you want to enroll for EFT. It automatically defaults to no. However, we do highly recommend that you choose electronic funds transfer in a way for you to get your payments. For obvious reasons, it's going to be direct deposited right into the account of your choice, and you don't have to wait for a paper check to come in the mail. So I'm going to choose yes, and once I do that, you'll notice a whole bunch of information is going to populate below. First, it's going to auto-populate the provider information and the provider identifier information. And this is pulling from earlier on in the application, the information that we entered in. Below that will be an option to enter in provider contact, agent, agency, or retail pharmacy information. These are not required fields. However, if you do have information to report in these fields, you could do so by simply clicking the plus sign to the right of the field. It will expand the selection, and you have the option to enter in the information. What is required here on this page is the financial institution information. So I'm going to start by including my financial institution name. I do not need to enter in an address, so I'm going to leave that blank. I do need to enter in a routing number, the type of account, so you can drop down and choose from either checking or savings, and then your account number. Under that, you have the option to have this account linked via your tax ID or your MPI. You see if I can toggle between these two, and it populates for me automatically from when I gave the information on the first page. So I'm going to leave it as tax ID for today. You do not need to do anything under submission. You'll notice that if I drop the box down that says included with enrollment submission, it's going to tell you no additional documentation is required. We do not require that you send in a voided check with your application. So once you've entered in all your financial information, you can hit Save to continue. The next page of our application is regarding disclosures. It's important that you first read over the Privacy Act notice statement, the ownership and controlling interest requirements, and the information regarding disclosure forms. Down below is where you're going to find all of the disclosure forms that you must action in order to continue with the application. The first disclosure form is the provider self-disclosure. Every provider is required to self-disclose on their application. You'll notice that all of the statuses are currently new, and we need them all to say complete in order to move on with our application. So I'm going to first enter in our disclosure information for the provider, and I'm going to do so by hitting the Create New button on the line item. This is going to populate a blank provider self-disclosure form for us. It is going to pull the legal name and the tax ID at the top here. And then below that will be a series of questions that you must answer in order to complete this form. You want to make sure that you're reading each question very carefully, as they all default to yes, and you want to make sure that you're answering them correctly and accurately however they are stated. So you'll notice on this first question, if I choose no here, that the box below has now disappeared. And that's because if the answer is yes, you will be required in the box below to give us more information regarding the question and why you answered yes. I do know these questions, so I'm going to go through and answer them appropriately as you do the same. Once you reach the general section of this disclosure form, you're going to notice first that there is a place that you're going to enter in contact information for auditing purposes. Who do you want us to contact in the event of an audit? So you will be required to give us that person's name as well as their address. And once again, this may be different than any other contact information that you've given to us already in this application. This is for auditing purposes only. I'm going to tab through the zip code and let it go through the USPS software. Accept the changes. And then I do have to enter in a phone type and phone number for this contact. Directly under that contact information will be a place where you're going to give us the address of where your physical records are kept. And you'll notice that it does disclose here that you're not able to enter in a P.O. box, and that's because we don't expect that you are keeping your physical records at the post office. So again, you're going to give us the address. It's going to go through the USPS software. And then please provide us a phone number of who to contact for medical records. Who can we contact if it's regarding requesting records? I do want to mention right below that information is a question regarding compliance with your taxes. This question reads, in accordance with 32 VSA, I declare that I'm currently not in good standing with any and all taxes due. This is why it's very important to read each question very carefully, because if the answer is yes here, you're telling Vermont Medicaid that you're not in good standing with your taxes. I'm going to choose no today to say I am in good standing with my taxes. And then there'll just be a couple other questions to answer right below that. Once you've answered all the questions and entered in all the address information, you can hit save. And now you have completed the provider self-disclosure form. You'll notice the status now says completed, and the Create New box located on this line item has grayed out. The reason for that is you can only fill out one provider self-disclosure form per application. So I'm going to need to do the same thing for each one of the other disclosing entity forms located below. So I'm going to start with my subcontractor disclosure. I'm going to hit Create New on the line item. And then it's important to read the first questions and the description of what a subcontractor is closely. So for instance, this first question says, has the provider had business transactions with any subcontractor totaling more than $25,000 during the preceding 12-month period? If the answer is yes, you're going to leave it as yes, and you're going to fill out all the necessary information regarding that subcontractor. However, if the answer is no, you'll see I'm going to check no, and all of that information has disappeared, and I can click Save. Now I've completed the requirement for subcontractor disclosure. It's now in a completed status. I'm going to do the same thing for ownership and control interest. I'm going to hit Create New. And I'm going to become familiar with what it means to disclose ownership and controlling interest individuals or corporations. Is there any entity, an individual or a corporation, with an ownership or controlling interest in the disclosing entity as described above, meaning that they have 5% or more in the provider? If the answer is yes, you're going to fill out all the information. If the answer is no, you'd select no and continue on. However, we are a facility, so I am going to report that we do have an individual that has ownership and control interest in my facility. So I'm going to leave the box checked yes. Is the entity an individual or corporation? I'm going to say this is an individual who has 80% interest in my facility. I'm going to enter in the information regarding that individual, including their name, their social security number, their birth date, and their address. And the reason that we ask you for this information is because every disclosing entity that you report is also screened in the review process of your application. It's just going through the USPS software to validate. You also are required to enter in an email address for this individual. And right below that, you will need to give us an effective date of when the individual started with your facility. It's going to automatically default to the end of time, just because, again, we don't expect that you have a necessary end date for this individual. But of course, if you do, you could certainly enter that end date and change that at will. Below that, we're going to ask you a series of questions regarding this individual, so you want to make sure you read over each question very carefully. You'll notice below each question, as it's defaulted to yes, there is a box for more information. So if your answer is yes to any of these questions, you will be required to hit the Create New button under the box and to give us the information requested. Again, I am familiar with these questions. I'm going to go through and answer them as you do the same. Once you've answered all of the questions and fill out all the necessary information, you can click Save. And now we have a completed entry for our ownership and control interest disclosure form. You'll notice that the Create New button on all of these disclosing entities that we've already completed still is available to us. And that's because you may have more than one to report. So if you have another person that has ownership or control interest at least 5% or more, you would want to hit Create New again, fill out a new disclosing entity form for that individual or corporation. I'm going to move down to Managing Employees. I'm going to hit Create New again on the line item. And again, I'm going to read over what a managing employee is and answer, is there any managing employee entity associated with the provider's organization? If yes, please fill out all the necessary information. If no, check no and hit Save to continue. And lastly, I'm going to do the same for business transaction. I'm going to hit Create New on the line item. I'm going to read over what a business transaction means, and I'm going to answer the first question. Now all of my statuses are complete and I'm able to move on and save and continue this page. I do want to note, however, that if in the event that you have to review any of your disclosure forms or somebody else is reviewing them for you, you do have the option to go back and look and see what you have entered. You can do so by simply clicking on the line item for the disclosure form that you want to see. So for instance, I'm going to choose ownership and control interest. I'm just going to click here anywhere in the line item. And that's going to bring up my disclosure form. If I had multiple disclosures under ownership and control interest that I reported, you would see them all listed here. And you can look at it and edit it by choosing the pencil icon located on that line item. That's going to bring up your disclosure form that you entered, and you're able to review all of the information, make changes if needed. I don't want to make any changes, so I'm simply just going to close out this box. Once you've entered and reported all of your disclosing entities, you can hit Save to continue. The next page of our application is regarding attachments. This is where you're going to upload attachments needed to complete your application. This is the documentation that we're going to need to see along with your completed application. So you'll notice here that it lists the provider type and specialty. So according to this provider type and specialty, along with the information that you've provided so far throughout the application, below is a list of the required attachments that you will need to send in order for your application to be complete. You'll notice that right now, all of the requirements say no, that they have not been met, and we need them all to say yes in order to continue on and move on from this page. So to do so, I'm going to scroll down to where it says Attachment Details. This is where you're going to action each one of the attachment types listed above. So I'm going to start by hitting the Create New button. And I'm going to first select the transmission method. How do I want to send or upload these documents to Vermont Medicaid? So you're going to choose from the drop-down list, and you'll see that you have a few different options. The way that we recommend that you get your attachments to us is by electronic only. That means that you have the document readily available on your computer and you can upload it right here to this application. If you don't have the ability to do so, you do have the option to send us your documentation via mail, email, or fax. Just please note that there is a timeline associated. So once you submit your application, if you didn't upload your documents directly to the application, your application is going to go into a holding status, and it's going to sit there and wait for us to receive your documents and upload them to your application. This is a 14-day waiting period. If we don't receive your documents within 14 days, your application will be locked and you will need to start over. If you choose to upload them directly to your application, once you submit your application, that application goes right through our screening service and is queued up for somebody to review. So we do highly recommend that you upload them directly here if you have the ability to do so. So we are going to upload those today. So I'm going to choose electronic only. And then I have to choose the attachment type. And I want to, again, make sure that I'm choosing an attachment type associated to each one of the ones that's required above. So I'll start with my IRS W-9. So I'm going to scroll down and find that one. And then because I'm choosing to upload these directly, I'm going to hit Select Files, which will allow me to go find the document on my computer. I'm going to select it. It's going to upload, and just that fast it's done, and I can hit Save. Now you'll notice under Attachment Details, I have an entry here where I've uploaded my IRS W-9 form. Up above, under the Attachment Type and Requirement, it has now changed from No to Yes. So I'm going to repeat the process with my professional license. So I'm going to hit Create New under Attachment Details, select my transmission method, select now Professional License. I'm going to select my file and go grab it from my computer. It's going to upload and I'm going to hit Save. And now I've met that requirement. I'm going to go through and I'm going to repeat the process for my 3 remaining documents. I do want to note too, while I'm going through this, that the requirement met for where it says yes does not mean that you've uploaded your document. If you choose your transmission method as mail or email or fax, it's still going to say that the requirement has been met because you've met the requirement in order to complete the application. You've told us how you're going to get this information to us. But you want to make sure that if you did choose email or mail or fax, that once you hit submit on your application, that you're sending those documents to us. So I'm just on my professional liability insurance. And I have one more to go, which is my accreditation confirmation. So that was the last one that I needed. You'll see now all of my requirements have changed to yes. So I've completed the requirement for attachments for my application, and now I can hit Save and continue. The next page of our application is regarding fees. Vermont Medicaid does require a fee for a facility application to be processed, except if you qualify for that application fee to be waived. It's important that you read over the application fee requirements listed here, and it's going to let you know that the following providers are exempt from the application fee: individual providers or non-physicians, providers who are enrolled in Medicare, or providers who have paid the application fee to either Medicare or another state Medicaid plan. Our application for Vermont is $595, and it's going to tell you where to send your check to in the event that you do have to pay that application fee. We are going to ask you a series of 4 questions in order to determine whether an application fee is appropriate in your situation. The first is the service location enrolled in Medicare? And we're going to choose yes here because we put our Medicare information in there. We are enrolled in Medicare. It's going to ask if the service location has paid an application fee to another state Medicaid program. We're not enrolled in any other state Medicaid program, so we're going to choose no. Have you received a waiver of the application fee from Medicare or another state Medicaid program due to financial hardship? You want to answer that appropriately. And then lastly, do you have a financial hardship? Are you going to request a waiver of the application fee because of financial hardship? Once you answer all of those questions, you're going to see the amount due noted here. Now, ours says no fee because we are enrolled in Medicare, therefore we would have already had to pay a fee to Medicare to enroll. Just to show you what it would look like if we said no, I'm going to choose no here, and now you're going to see that the amount due is $595. So if you've answered no to all of these questions, you want to make sure that you're sending that check to the address listed here at the Department of Vermont Health Access. I'm going to switch that back to yes because we are Medicare enrolled. Once you've answered all the questions, you can hit save to continue. The last page of our application is the Agreement and Submit page. You first want to start by making sure that you're reading over the information at the top of this page very carefully. We do have the terms of agreement listed here, and you will see that we have pulled the information from earlier on in your application. At any time, if you're reviewing this information that is populated and you notice that there is any incorrect information in there or maybe a typing error, you can always go back and change it and then come back to this page. You first want to make sure that there aren't any special provisions listed for your provider type. You're going to do so by clicking the blue hyperlink here, and that's going to bring you to our vtmedicaid.com website. You're going to check for any special provisions listed by your provider type. Once you've done so, you're going to hit the Proceed button, and that's going to bring you to our General Provider Agreement. It's very important that you read over the General Provider Agreement very carefully, as this is the terms and conditions that you are agreeing to. You do have the option to download or print this if you so choose in order for it to be easier for you to review or to keep a copy on your computer. Once you've read over the General Provider Agreement, you can accept it by hitting the I agree button, and a blue window is going to populate, making sure that you confirm your choice. So you're going to choose yes, and now you'll notice there's a checkbox next to I accept. Below that, you're going to give us information regarding the person that you want to receive an invitation code upon the approval of your application in order to access the provider portal to maintain this information. So you want to make sure that you give us their name, the last 4 of their social security number, preferred language. You're going to enter in their email address, as well as their birth date and their phone number. Now you want to make sure that you're entering this information accurately, as they're going to need to confirm and verify this information that's given here along with that activation with their invitation code. Below that, you are going to electronically sign this application. You're going to do so by first clicking the I accept box, entering in your last name and your first name. You do have the option here to add comments if there was more information you wanted to provide to DXC or to the state of Vermont. And then below that, you're going to need to give us an email to receive a verification code in order to submit this application. You want to make sure that this email address that you're putting here is readily accessible to you, because once you hit request verification code and you receive that in your email, you're going to have 10 minutes to use that code before it expires. If you're not ready to submit your application, maybe somebody else needs to review it, you can hit the Finish Later button. That's going to save all of the information that you've provided, and you can resume your application by using your application tracking number along with the password that you use to register this application. I am ready to submit this today, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Request Verification Code. A blue box is going to populate, letting you know that a verification code has been sent to the email address provided. Once you receive that verification code, which comes very quickly into your email, just a matter of a minute or two, you're going to want to enter it in exactly as it looks in your email. So for instance, in my email, all of the letters within my verification code are capitalized. So I want to make sure that I capitalize them here. If I try to enter them as lowercase, when I hit submit, it's going to tell me that my verification code is not valid. So once you've entered in your verification code, you're now ready to submit your application, and you can do so by clicking the Submit button on the bottom right-hand corner. A blue box is going to pop up asking you to confirm that yes, you want to submit the application. And then it's going to process through, and it's going to submit that application to DXC to start the process to enroll this provider. You're going to get a confirmation that you have successfully submitted your application. It'll provide you your tracking number again. And then also it's going to provide a cover sheet. In the event that you chose that you want to send your documentation to us via mail or email or fax, you're going to want to access this cover sheet and include it with your documentation that you send. This is a way for us to easily identify who this application is for and where we should attach these documents. It's going to provide us that application tracking number so we know exactly which application to upload these documents to. If you have any questions after you have submitted your application, the provider enrollment team is ready to answer those questions. So below is some contact information. You can send your request to vtproviderenrollment@dxc.com, or you can definitely feel free to contact us via phone Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. Thank you for visiting this training video. I hope you all have a wonderful day.